Hey, one small welcome to the You Can Be Anything podcast. If you're watching me for the first time, please kindly find the You Can Be Anything podcast page on Facebook and follow us. Today, I'm here on the podcast with an amazing individual. As usual, I bring in people who can talk to us about different aspects of life. Remember, the goal here is to inspire you. The goal is for you to know what people are doing so you can be able to find the resources you need to lead you to finding that best version of yourself. So today with me, I have Ivy Ngwa. Ivy is a mindset empowerment coach for women of color and within teams in organizations. She is also a science teacher, a mom, and a wife. Ivy, welcome to my platform. I'm so honored to have you.
Thank you very much, Solange. It's a privilege for me to be on your platform. And yeah, I do hope that by the end of this, someone, at least one person will get something out of this. Yeah.
Awesome. That's what we do, right? Do our best to bring value, to help people find value in the things they do. Absolutely. I know I have introduced you briefly, but please, can you just kindly tell us a little bit about who Ivy is? I introduced you from how I know you, but can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Right. I am Ivy Ngwa, and I come originally from Cameroon. I hail from the northwest region of Cameroon. And the people who, that is the region where I come from, they call us, unquote, Seven Kata. That is people from Bafut. So yeah, but also I'm resident in the UK and I wear a couple of hats. I am a mindset empowerment coach. I tend to support women of color. And this is in particularly career women of color who feel overlooked and who feel undervalued, especially in their careers or in their businesses or even in personal lives. Because as a woman of color myself, I have had a fair share of, feeling overlooked, of being overlooked and feeling undervalued. And I went through that process and I came out the other end feeling fulfilled and feeling happy. And I thought, I would really love to do this for other women of color as well. I also support teams within organizations to become high performing. This is not just teams within the people of color space, but just teams within organizations in general. And then finally, I am a science teacher. I work in secondary school. So when I'm not coaching, I am teaching. When I'm not teaching, I am coaching.
Oh, you're being a mom and a wife. So many hats to wear.
Yeah, I am a mom of 3 adorable human beings, and I'm a wife as well to my amazing husband. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Just in order to put it in perspective, right? Can you please tell us a little bit about what mindset is? When you talk of mindset empowerment coach, please give us a little bit of insights on what that is. If for somebody who's never heard that before, in the simplest way possible, how can you define that?
So I would say I would pull it out into 3 different routes. This is the teacher in me talking now. So when I think of the word mindset, what comes to mind is my perspective of life, the way that I see life, the way that I interact with life as based on how I interpret the events that happen around me, based on how, I see it as the lens through which you see life. If you can imagine looking through a lens and seeing life either from a zoomed in lens or from a far off lens or from a clean lens. Even if you don't clean your lens, obviously your picture is not going to be clear. So I support people to shift or to change their perspectives, the way that they see life. Then the empowerment side of it is using that shift in perspective. People can then feel empowered. They can then feel like, yes, I can do this. They can build confidence. They can build courage to be able to do whatever it is that they want to do. Now, And of course, the basis of my coaching is supporting people to take ownership of their lives and become self-leaders. And when I talk about self-leadership, it's about just thinking about your life, creating the course of your life, carrying on with that course, correcting it as you go along, taking full and complete ownership of it. Because if you don't take full ownership of your life, who are you expecting to take ownership of it, you know? So yeah, that is what a mindset empowerment coach does. They support people, in short, in brief, support people to change their perspectives so that they can feel that trust and that ability within themselves to take their lives to where they want it to be.
Awesome. That is, see, I'm listening to you and I'm digesting this information like I'm in some coaching session with you. This is awesome. Thank you so much for defining it like that. So it kind of helps everyone else listening who has probably never come in contact with that kind of a word or what that is to understand what it entails to be. So I see, I know your company name is Ivy Ngwa Coaching, and
Absolutely.
please kindly share with us, what is one thing you wish you had known before you started Ivy Ngwa Coaching?
You know, there are so many things that I wish I would have known, but I think the one thing is I wish I knew that I was going on this journey of self-discovery. So my coaching is not just for other people, it is for me as well, because when I'm sat in front of a client, coaching a client, obviously all of my sessions are non-judgmental. There is nothing that a client will say that I would show any, judgment. Even within, I'm not judging my clients, non-judgmental and completely confidential. And there are times when it is not just the client leaving the session having sorted out whatever it is that they came to sort out. It is also me sorting out my own ish, because after I challenge the client about a certain way that they view the world, I then go away and ask myself, how do I actually view the world? And so it is this self-discovery journey where I am constantly discovering myself as well. And, I wish I knew that, but I'm also, in some respect, I'm also really excited that I did not know, because I'm constantly asking, what is round the corner for me to discover about myself? Because I don't know me. I say, I don't know me enough.
That's awesome. So this is also some kind of a self-discovery journey for you. So you're doing two things at the same time. Yeah, that is beautiful. And in the course of this, you've done this for approximately how long have you been doing this now?
This is my second year in business.
Okay.
I started the training in 2018. So the whole of 2018 and part of 2019, I was doing the training. And then once I finished the training, I went into business. Yeah.
Oh, great. So within this time, since you started, you went through the training and you started your business and you're finding yourself now you're dealing with clients. What would you say has been your biggest challenge or failure, whichever way you choose to call it, so far on this journey of yours?
I think my biggest challenge was there've been a few, I'm not going to say a few, I'm going to be really honest and say there've been tears. Okay, there've been tears, and there has been laughter and joy, but then there has also been the other side where there's been frustrations, there's been tears. I think the biggest challenge that I've faced is just navigating the space, because when I started, I've always been really passionate about supporting women of color, because obviously I'm a woman of color. I know what it means for me to have left Cameroon, traveled out of the country to pursue a career. And I know the challenges that I face on a day-to-day basis, and in conversation with other women of color, I know the challenges that we face as a people. Yeah. And I know that it can be difficult to navigate those challenges and come out the other side, gaining promotion at work without having to prove yourself twice as much as other people, and we have to talk about these things. When I went, there's one of my jobs that I went to, and I had to prove myself so much before they could even believe in me.
It's
And
hard.
I thought, in terms of the challenges, I think it's been the one major challenge that I've faced, and I still carry on to face it, is trying to reach other women of color and say this thing can be done differently, and trying to reach that community to bring coaching to them, because it's something that is relatively new for so many women of color. And I suppose because it's not a cultural thing for us. However, there was a time when I thought, okay, I'm just gonna leave this women of color thing and just do, coaching for everyone, and, coach the people that, are coming to me. But the passion burns in me. And so I can't just say I'm gonna leave it. I can't just leave it. I've tried to do that, but I've come 360 and come back to it. So I think my biggest challenge has been reaching the target market that I'm most passionate about, which is women of color.
Yeah, the people that drive you, the people that make you want to do this, because I believe that women of color, and just as you said earlier on, it's probably because of an experience that you've had, and you're like, you know what, this is something that I've gone through. I know so many other women of color are going through this. I can help them. So I understand how frustrating it can be when you say, okay, let's do this. But at the same time, it's so hard to pin these people down and say, hey, let's do this another way. I can imagine how frustrating that will be. So one of the other things I would like us to talk about is when you talk about your market being women of color, right? Do you only focus on them? If another woman were to reach out to you and say, hey, Ivy, I know you tend to help women of color a lot more about this. The truth is, yes, we are women of color. We are immigrants, right? I'm talking about those who have migrated.
Yeah.
There are other women of color who haven't. Like, I live in the US, but of course, I know that the experiences are similar, no matter what part of the world we are in. So if someone else were to reach out to you, I know that we are not the only ones that go through this. Even women, even other natives, of women of other races. So will you tend to someone that is not a woman of color if they reach out to you and ask for help?
Absolutely, I will. Now, like I said, I work with businesses as well. And
yes,
there are so many other women that I've supported who are white women, let me say so. They are white women, they are not women of color. I just worked with a client who is a white lady.
Okay.
And after finishing with her, she got the promotion at work that she was going for.
Yes.
And that is what I am trying to bring to women of color, to say that, look, you can be much more in your career, you can be much more in your business, in your life, if only you get the right support that you need. But having said that, I work with all people.
Okay.
I just niche down to women of color so that I can tailor my messages to reach this particular group of people. But there are people that I work with who are not women of color. And when I say women of color, it's not just Black women.
It's not Black women. That's the next, that's going to be my next thing.
Absolutely. It's not just Black women. It is any woman who identifies as a woman of color. She can be an Asian woman. She can be a woman from Mexico. It's not just Black women as a whole.
Yes, I was going to ask about that. I'm glad you cleared it out, because sometimes when people listen to us talk, you know what you're talking about, but the person listening from the other end doesn't have the knowledge that you have in you. So I was going to clear that out. I'm glad you did already. So another thing that I wanted us to talk about while you're here is, I understand that you had to go through a training in order to understand the dynamics of being a coach, right?
Yeah.
So you don't just wake up from bed one day and you become a coach. Some people are born with that innate with that innate ability to guide and help and coach other people. But again, in the world we live in, there is need for you to get trained, professionally trained, so that you can do your job right.
Yeah.
So in your case, let's assume that there is somebody that feels like, hey, you know what? I think I can make a really good coach. I think that I have that capability, ranging from when we're growing up. I have that capability to talk to people, to calm people down, to make people open up to me. I use the information they give me to help them back. And I think I'm blessed, right? As we say it. So I think I have that innate capability. And they wanted to do what you're doing now. They wanted to become maybe a professional. It could be a professional coach. It could be any kind of coach, but generally in the coaching world, right? What kind of advice would you give to someone that wants to pursue a similar coaching kind of business that you are currently doing?
I would say now, coaching as an industry, it's not regulated as such.
Okay.
And so you would find people who are coaches who have not gone through any formal training.
Oh.
However, many people, when they then come to find a coach to work with them, they ask you. Some people ask for training. They're like, can I just double check that, you have some form of qualification for this? Or where did you train? Where did you train to become a coach? How long did your training take? How long have you been in business for? So these are questions that clients would ask. Clients have the right to do their due diligence to find out if this person is actually going to support me. Now, can I also just say that what people just want is support.
Yep.
They really don't want your qualification. Your qualification is as good as a sheet of paper. However, I think for me, I went for the qualification because I believe in an intensive form of training before embarking on a job that I have never done before. Now, I could coach even prior to my qualification. I could coach. I was one of those people who was, always very empathic. I had that ability to coach people even without knowing the word coaching itself. And so the qualification in itself just helped me to understand. It gave me a framework to work with.
Great.
And I suppose
awesome.
The person who has just gotten up and has just dived in may not have that framework, whereas I have a framework already that I use to then craft my work around. And also, it's not just the coaching that I've done. I've then gone on to train in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And it's a branch of coaching where it works a lot with the mind, because I'm interested in mindset. So I switched into something that works with the mind. It helps people to understand themselves a lot better from a subconscious level, because honestly, 90% of everything that we do and say and the way that we react is subconscious. It's from the subconscious. Our subconscious minds actually control 90% of our lives. And because I was interested in that part, I went into training. But having said that, there are many people who are coaches who've not gone through any formal training. I think it just depends on what the client wants. Can you help the client? Yes, I can. Do you have a framework with which you work with? Yes, I do. That's it. But then in other fields which are more regulated, you would have to go through a formal training. But I just chose to go through that training so that I convince myself that I'm doing the job that I'm meant to be doing.
Yeah, that's nice. So in what you do, I believe that you get to deal a lot with empathic listening, because I know for sure that when you coach, you're not telling people stuff. You're listening to what they have to tell you and supporting them to make those decisions are already innate. I think that's how I've always thought of it to be. Is that correct? Is that a right assertion?
Absolutely, that is it. So I do most of my coaching. I do about 80% coaching and 20% mentoring. So I merge coaching and mentoring into my work, into my practice. And that is simply because I do workshops as well as trainings as well. So the mentoring aspect comes in through with the workshops and the trainings.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right to say that with a coach, the coach does not necessarily tell you to go and do A, B, and C, because I'm telling you from my perspective, not from your perspective.
Yes.
And I know that many, I'm still going back to the example of many women of color that I've spoken to. Initially, they're like, but I don't know the answers. That's why I came to you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know the answers either. The answers are within. You just need to believe that they are within. And that is part of the empowerment of, stripping off all of those limiting beliefs and those blocks that they have inside, thinking that they are unable to do it.
Yeah.
And then empowering them to be able to reach deep inside and get those solutions out. Yeah.
That is great. Thanks for sharing that. Now, what I want us to talk about, I recently released an episode where I talked about smart learning, right? I try to encourage people to like, hey, you know what? You can learn a lot of stuff. We went to school in all the parts of the world that we come from. We learn different kinds of things. I am a linguist, I always say it. So when you're talking about neuro-linguistic, I'm like, hey, those are the kind of things that I read a little bit about, even though when I did my PhD, I was more based on applied linguistics, more on the documentary part of linguistics than the neuro-linguistics side of things. But when we come out and we are still working, we are doing the stuff we need to do to take care of ourselves, of our families. But there is always that inner thing. The reason I'm bringing this out is because, Ivy, you are a teacher. I'm sure you were trained to be a teacher. You are a mom. You are a wife, right? But within you found that need to do something else. You know that, hey, even before training to become a coach, I know that there is something within me that always wants to help people, help empower
Absolutely.
people, make people understand the importance of mindset. What's your mindset? Your mindset has a very big impact, a very big influence on you as a person. So you decided to do this. And the next thing I want you to help talk about is I bet that you must have used some aspects of smart learning. I can bet that you do not enroll in a school and go there every day to go learn how to do this. Please tell us about some of the resources that have helped you become a successful mindset coach today, that you know that, hey, without this, I probably would not have been what I am today. Please kindly share with us some of those resources that you have used to train yourself.
Tell you what, unfortunately, school does not equip you for everything in life. It can do as much as it can. You go to school, you learn about, whatever you learn about. You don't even learn about how to communicate with people. Let me just come down to the basics, like listening, like, responding to what people say, when to talk, how to interject, and all of those things. You don't learn about them in school. And one of the things that I use the most, honestly, I would not be here without YouTube. Okay? Right. I call it YouTube University. If you haven't been on YouTube, you should go there. Can I also just say something here?
Yes.
Now, much as I am empathic, I'm quite straight and direct. Okay? So we go to YouTube a lot to listen to, things that are not adding value to our lives.
Yes.
Things like gossip. I'm going to talk to my Cameroonian sisters and brothers and Black people in general. Things like gossip and things like, there was a fight, this is doing that. We go on YouTube and listen that. What about we use that data to educate ourselves on how to communicate, how to, cook a meal, or how to sit and how to create influence, how to create impact. What about we do that instead? Because when you spend your time doing things that don't bring you value, we're going to stay mediocre. That's it. Straight and simple. So I use YouTube a lot. However, I use YouTube in a way that it brings me value. I built my website by myself. I did not contract anyone to build my website. And this is a girl who only had her first email address in, say, 2008, 2007. So I say these things just so that one can put it into perspective. Now, if I had my first email address in 2007, and that's about when I immigrated to this country, and that is when I became introduced to computers and everything like that. There were no computers back then in Bafoot. Trust me, there were none. So YouTube has been, invaluable in me becoming a successful coach. I go on YouTube sometimes and learn from other coaches who are on YouTube already and who've been doing it for much longer. I went on YouTube and learned how to set up a PayPal account, how to set up my website, how to everything, pretty much. All of those other skills that you don't learn as part of your coaching training and as part of education as a whole, I learned them on YouTube. Now, there are things that there are other resources as well, human capacity. Now, I am a coach. And the one thing that we forget to know is when you offer a service, if you cannot pay the amount of money that you're charging other people to pay you, trust me, no one is going to buy your service. If I cannot buy a dress for 1,000 francs, yet I'm selling dresses for 1,000 francs each and more, people are not going to buy because it is all in the mindset. It is all in here. We might think that after all, the people are coming to buy has nothing to do with me. No, absolutely not. I need to be convinced that I am able to pay for the same value that I'm charging others to pay for. And so I've had to use many coaches as well to coach me. Since 2018 that I started on my coaching journey, there's been no time that I'm without a coach. One that I pay to coach me. Right now, as we speak, I have 2 coaches who are coaching me. One continuously on the business front, the other one continuously on the mindset front. I have my own limiting beliefs. I have my own blocks. And so I have to continue to seek that support so that those blocks can be unblocked. And so human capacity is really important. If you don't know something and you have the means to pay someone to do it, pay that person to do it, to help you to learn it. Then I've got a ton of books.
Reading.
A ton of books and blogs. And if I see a blog that is talking about anything that I know that is linked to my work as a coach or is going to develop me in one way or another, I am stuck in straight away. If I hear something, videos, I listen to a lot of podcasts, I listen to a lot of videos. In my car, when I go to school, there's either an audio. When I drive to work, my kids are fed up because they're in the car when I'm driving. There's either an audio book, a video I'm listening to, or just something around the work that I do. Yeah. And that is such that I can keep myself up to, up to the trends, how the changing trends are in coaching. So I think, those are some of the things that I use as resources, really. Yeah.
That is great. Thanks again for sharing that. And just to piggyback a little bit on what you said about YouTube, I've encouraged people time without number, find something that you love to do. Somebody must have done it before, or even create your own ideas and go see how other people are doing theirs. Even if you're the creator, you're the inventor, it's going to help you. How another person manages their own invention, it's going to help you in creating yours. So I'm one person that believes a lot in going out there, go to YouTube, I'm sure that I've heard places where people make mockery of the Google teacher, right? But at the same time, there's valuable information there. If you don't know what it is, Google it. find it out, use that data. And the video I made about smart learning, I intentionally targeted my brothers and sisters back in Cameroon or other less developed parts of the world. Like, hey, you have this data that you spend on Facebook and watch other things on YouTube. What about you dedicate some time just to go learn something, find something and learn it? There's a ton of information. There's a ton of people have free courses that they have put on YouTube.
Absolutely.
That will help you find your way. So I'm so happy that you brought that up, and I like the way you call it the YouTube University. So if you're not making use of YouTube University out there and you think that you just want to go to formal school is going to teach you the basics, the background we need in order to get into this world now, teach ourselves, learn smartly, work smartly. And again, it's all mindset, as Ivy is saying. Your mindset, that is what is going to help you.